What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of Family Rising. We're so happy that you joined us. And in today's video, we are talking all about why being a visible queer family is so important to us. Right, Antler? One of the biggest reasons we wanted to make this video is because Jenilee posted a picture on your Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And it was pretty much talking about us being a queer family and identifying as queer. And we were pretty surprised when we had a couple of people commenting and DMing us that they didn't know that we identified as queer. So we were like, okay, we should definitely make a video kind of explaining our queerness and our queer family and what it is to us.
So it's really important for us to hold on tightly to our queerness and our queer identity and to be visibly queer, even though we are not necessarily visibly queer unless we announce ourselves as visibly queer. I have been through a lot in terms of just like figuring out my sexual identity. I identified as a lesbian, I identified as pansexual, I identified as straight, I identified so many different ways, and at this point queer really does feel like it goes all the way to the root of who I am and through all of those different identities that I have tried on. And I just feel like I have to put it on my forehead, right? Like I almost thought about like if I didn't have bangs, I could have like lipsticked like queer on my forehead for this video, because I know I don't necessarily fit any sort of stereotype as a queer person. And for Aydian, he used to identify as a lesbian for a really long time.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of like transitioning, being transgender and transitioning to identify and present as a man, you know, kind of like robs him of that lesbian identity if he allows it as well. And so I think that we're both at a point where we're like, we are queer, we are a queer family, and we want people to know that. And the only way people are going to know that is if we continue to use our mouths to say that.
We're a queer family! We're a queer family! Don't get it twisted! Don't get confused! We're queer and we're here!
And we're very visibly queer online. Well, at least I thought we were more visibly queer than we actually found out we were after I made that post and people were like, I didn't realize you were queer.
So ready! We're so ready! Yes, we are!
Another really, really important reason to be visibly queer is for the future of humanity, right? And Antler is almost 6 months old and he is literally the future of humanity and a big part of that. And so we want to do our part. We believe in being the change we want to see in the world, and it's just super important to us, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely important to us to have Antler be aware of what our life is like, and I mean,
what it's been like,
what
it's going to be like,
yes.
And how to support our community. I want him to learn, like, regardless of how he ends up identifying, right? He's gonna have this very, very open canvas to explore that on, right? And we want to be that canvas for him. We want to provide this very safe container for him to explore his own sexuality, his own gender identity, and we want him to, regardless of how he identifies, be able to be an ally to our LGBT plus community.
And he is a part of the queer community because he's our child.
Yeah.
So his story is not of every other, you know, if he is, you know, male identified, it's not the story of every other, you know, cisgender hetero boy, because he has a queer family and he has a queer extended family, right?
Yeah, and I think, you know, you learned a lot about that last summer when you spoke to that group of children of queer parents.
I spoke at FEC Family Week. Jenilee and I went, and Antler went too, but he was still in the belly.
He was still in the womb, yeah.
And I spoke to a bunch of teens, and I listened to them on a panel, and they were all, so they consider themselves like, what do they call themselves? Rainbow Spawn or something like that?
Spawns.
Spawns, but it was something Spawn. It was like, I don't know, it was really cute. But they all refer to themselves as that. They all were really passionate about the LGBT community, even though I think only a couple of them out of this large group identified as LGBTQ themselves. So, you know, it's definitely going to be a part of his life, and he's a part of the community. So we're really, you know, excited, and it's important for us to share all of that with him.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. Really important work, and I think it's becoming clear just how important it is in the culture we're in right now. Lefty wants everyone to know that she identifies as queer fur femme. And she has been by our side since day one, all the way through Aydian's transition. She's just been the most supportive rainbow kitty around, right?
Yeah, we love her. Being a queer family, it is hurtful when some people within our own queer community don't acknowledge us as a queer family, because we are perceived as a binary, heterosexual couple family, right? And so some people within the queer community don't really like that. They don't feel like that's a representation of the queer community. But I think the biggest dilemma there is that the queer community is really big, and it is an expression of all kinds of identities. And just because we do have, and we acknowledge that we do have some type of privileges, you know, walking into rooms not being, you know, being perceived and read as I guess a cis-het couple, right? But at the same time, that doesn't erase the fact that we are queer, and that is our identity. And for some people, maybe they do want that erased. You know, maybe they don't identify with really being queer and all that. But for us, we really, really do. So it's important, and it is hurtful when people within our community don't acknowledge that. But that's okay, because, you know, we're doing our thing, and we're doing it the best we can. And we're aligning with people who do see us in our queerness and are embracing us, and that just means that we get to welcome more people in their queerness, and we get to expand our version of queer, and they get to expand their version of queer, and everybody just keeps learning from one another. Hi! We are a really proud queer family, and we like to spread our message. And so sometimes when we are read as a cisgender heterosexual couple, it gives us the privilege of being in spaces that wouldn't normally have queer people there.
Yeah, we're kind of like undercover queers in that way. You know, we can go into spaces that typically queer people might not be welcomed, and use our voice to spread awareness and to open minds. And sometimes it means that we out ourselves as queer, and sometimes maybe we just out ourselves as queer allies, depending on the safety of the situation. But I think it's important to realize that there's a purpose for every different type of queer person. Being
undercover queers, we get to really disrupt environments in which we as a family are able to enter because of our privilege of appearing as, you know, a white cis hetero couple. Being a queer couple and a queer family is really important to us, and we'll never stop using our voice and using our privilege to speak. We as a queer family will never stop using our voice and our privilege to disrupt communities and spaces, because we are so prideful in being queer and having a family. And that's what this whole channel is about, and that's what our Instagram is about, and that's what our journey and our story is about. So thank you all for following our journey, and if you want to follow more closely, you can check out our Mommy, okay?
I got it.
Someone's getting hungry, so follow us on Instagram at Family Rising. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed. We'll catch you in the next video.